So here we are in our topic 2, and we're going to look at recording the invoice to the principal contractor. So when I'm looking at this one here, I want to say before we start, it's really important that you remember that when you're under a contract, an RCT contract with a principal contractor, you do not account for the VAT. So whatever is the net amount, if you're registered for VAT, whatever is the net amount, that's what you put on the invoice, and you add a note to the bottom of every invoice that says the VAT on this supply is to be accounted for by the principal contractor. Now, I need to say to you that although we are looking at RCT and we'll say corporation tax or income tax, the VAT issue here is quite important. So we're going to touch on it as we go along, but we're also going to look at it as we record the different bits and pieces on Sage, because it's quite important that you get this piece right, because you want your return of trading details and you want your VAT return to be correct, and you want it to be correct coming off Sage so you don't have to do any manual manipulation of the reports that you're getting directly from Sage. So when you are sending the principal contractor the invoice, you make sure you do not account for VAT, and you add a note that says the VAT on this supply is to be accounted for by the principal contractor. All right then, next up we're going to say that we have four steps. There are four steps here that are going to lead to us having the principal contractor's invoice recorded properly. And just so that we're doing it from start to finish, I'm going to assume that this is a brand new contract. Okay, so we're going to take four steps. We're going to create the customer record for the main contractor or principal contractor. We're going to create an RCT tax withheld nominal code. And this is the very important piece which makes this all very complicated. And then we're going to post the customer invoice to record the details of the work you've completed for the main contractor. And then you're going to record the RCT that's going to be withheld. And we're going to do that using a credit note. Okay, so let's just have a look at that step by step. Creating the customer record, creating the RCT tax withheld nominal code, posting the customer invoice, and then recording the RCT to be withheld. So first and foremost, we're well able for this piece. We've done it a million times before. We're going to create a new customer for the main contractor. So in customers, you're going to click on new or edit and use the wizard to put in the details of whatever your main contractor is going to be. And in a little while, we're actually going to practice this. We're going to do this through Sage. But for the moment, you're going to just enter the required details for that main contractor, save and close. Okay. Next, we're going to create a relevant contracts tax withheld nominal code. Now this is very important because you want to be able to see how much RCT has been withheld, how much RCT has been paid back, how much RCT has been written off against something else. So I'm going to suggest to you that we want to use the number 3150, so the nominal number 3150, because that's going to leave this within capital and reserves. Okay, and that's really where it needs to be, because it's money that will be due to you, that has been withheld. It really needs to be there in the capital and reserves. Okay, so what do? You go into nominal codes. Again, you go to new or edit, and I would go into the wizard. In the name, I would put in RCT tax withheld. Make sure that the type is capital and reserves. In the category of reserves, and the nominal code is 3150. Okay. If you click next, then it'll ask you, is there an opening balance on this nominal, and you're going to say no, and you're going to save. So now you've set up that RCT tax withheld nominal code. Now again, at this stage, I just want you to pay attention to what we're going to do, because we're actually going to do an example of this from start to finish on Sage shortly. Next, we're going to post the customer invoice. Now, so you're going into customers and batch invoices, and you're going to enter the information. So in this particular case, I'm going to say that the contractor we're talking about is called Big Contractor. and we're going to say that the amount of the invoice was for 2,000. That's the full amount. For this moment in time, just ignore the RCT. We're going to put in the full amount that we are going to bill the contractor for. So here I've just taken the date to be the 31st of January. I've put reference number 1 on it. I've got my nominal code, my standard nominal code for whatever the usual services or products I supply is, and here that's 4,000. That's your default on Sage. In the details, I'm just putting in big contractor, and the net amount is 2,000. Okay, the net amount is 2,000. So that's, let us say, the entire amount, ignoring RCT for the moment, that's the entire amount that I would like to invoice my contractor with. Because I'm going to write on that invoice, the VAT on this supply is to be calculated by the principal contractor, I'm going to put this in with a tax code of 0. Not a tax code of T9, because if I put it in as T9, it's not going to be on my VAT return. Okay, so I'm going to put it in as T0. That is to say, this is a service or a product that I supplied at 0%. So 2,000 is the full amount, and T0 is the tax code. T0, bringing it in then, that there will be, it will show as a sale, but it will not show any VAT. And that's really important. As we'll see later, we're going to have a look at our VAT return, and we're going to have a look at our return of trading details when we go to do this on Sage. So really important, the full amount for the contractor goes in with a tax code of 0. Okay, so we've now correctly accounted for the entire service that we are going to give that particular principal contractor. However, that particular contractor is not going to pay us that full amount. So we want to do a credit on that particular contractor. So again, this big contractor, B1, we want to do a credit on their account, and we want to put the nominal code there of 3150. So I want to say, okay, this contractor is not going to pay me that 400 euros. He's going to pay that to revenue instead. And I need to account for the fact that he's not going to pay that. He's going to pay that elsewhere. So he's only going to pay me 1,600 as opposed to 4,000. Pardon me, 2,000. He's going to pay me 1,600 as opposed to 2,000. So how do I do that? Again, I'm going into my customer batch credit. My customer is big contractor. Date, I'm using the 31st of the 1st, and I'm putting in the credit note number, I'm putting in internal RCT. So basically it's an internal credit note. It's not a credit note to anyone in particular. It's for our own records. The nominal code I'm going to use is 3150. So this is going to record that this 400 needs to be paid by the principal contractor to revenue on our behalf. I'm going to put the details, which you can't see all of here. So I've got contract tax withheld reference invoice 1. So that original invoice number, so whatever the invoice number was, let it be B5425, whatever it is, put in RCT withheld, reference the particular invoice that relevant contracts tax is withheld from. In this case, I'm going to say that it was 20%, so 2,000 by 20% is 400. And once again, very important here, tax code T9. Okay, I don't want this to be T0, because even though the contractor is only going to pay me 1,600, I've still supplied services of 2,000. So your T9 here, not T0. Okay, so that's the two pieces. The previous piece that we looked at there with the T0 on the invoice and the T9 on the credit note. They're the two pieces that are really important for you in order to have your VAT correct. Okay, so let's go again. The next thing is that we want to look at what is the outcome of this. So I've got my principal contractor, who is the customer. They show only the balance of the amount that they will pay directly to the subcontractor. So you can see my invoice of 2,000 less my credit of 400 is 1,600, and just make sure to allocate that credit. My RCT withheld account then will show a balance that would be available to me to allocate against any other tax or to be refunded. So that's really important, that at any stage you can just click into that RCT tax withheld and know how much is sitting there waiting for you. Okay. All right, so the next two topics we're going to look at, and we'll look at them in one recording because the first one there, topic 3, is very short. We're going to look at how we record the receipt from the principal contractor, and then we're going to look at how RCT is accounted for when it is paid directly to revenue. And we'll do that in our next presentation.